part of that process is that when we got done, when we're getting to the final stages of the musical, I started calling. I've never been someone to just push myself and make phone calls and put myself out there, but I called the American Montessori Society in New York City. I called them repeatedly, over and over. I got this musical. It's about Maria Montessori. I got this musical. Hey, listen, we're putting it on. I got this musical. It's great. And they finally called me back. They thought I was asking them for money. They thought I wanted some kind of support or something. And I was like, no, I just want to tell you guys about it. And so anyway, we put on the musical. We sent them photos and just shared it. We sent them photos. We sent them other things, and they said,
Hey, welcome back to Master Keys of Life. This is where we have interviews and we do some teaching. We share some stories with people who have been on the journey of finding their own purpose and destiny in life. What does God have for them to do? How did they get to where they are today? Where are they going? And what are some of the keys that they want to share with you? So maybe you can avoid some of the things that they've had to kind of detour around, or maybe just inspire you that, hey, you know what, you have a purpose as well. My guest today is a great friend of mine. We have traveled to Africa together. Just a great young man, and he's got a great story. So I want you all to welcome with me. His name is Mark Woodward.
Well, Bill, thanks for having me on. And the time that I've gotten to spend traveling with you and working with you after that trip to Kenya was just incredible and really formative in my life as a young adult.
Hey, Mark, now I want you to share just your story, because it's such a great story. Go back as far as you want, and just give us the highlights of Mark Woodward's life. Go ahead.
So I was a miracle child. My mom couldn't have children for 8 years, so she was on birth control the first 3 years, and then went off birth control. They wanted to get pregnant. All her friends were having kids. She couldn't have children. She went to a doctor, and there was an issue. There was an issue there that was preventing her from conceiving. And so she saw all her friends have their first child. She saw all her friends have their second child. Some of her friends had their third child. And so she just pretty much decided this is not going to happen. And when she was a little girl, she always wanted to be a mother. That was the thing she wanted to be. People said, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I want to be a mom. That was what she wanted. And so it was like a devastating thing. It just ongoing, the inability to have children. And so one day, a guy came to their church that and no one knew who he was. And he asked if he could get up and talk after the worship time, and they let him. And so this guy gets up that nobody knows, and he said, I have a word from the Lord that there's a couple here who has been unable to conceive, and God's going to open that woman's womb. And he said, mark this day, for the Lord is going to do something great. And he kept saying, go home in your calendars, mark this day. And that was he just kept repeating, mark this day. And so my parents were the only couple in the church who could not have children. And my mom had the reaction of, it's like Sarai in the Bible. Ha ha. If God wanted me to have kids, it would have happened already. My dad just started weeping. And the very next month, my mom was pregnant. And it was a sensation, because everybody knew my parents couldn't have kids. Everybody knew, it was a big deal. So when I was born, I had gone into distress in the womb. I had actually aspirated meconium. I had eaten the stuff that was floating in, and I pooped it out, and then I breathed that in to my lungs. And so I had beta strep sepsis, which is in 1982, that was 80% fatal in infants. I was blue. I was rushed to intensive care. I was put in a dome on 100% oxygen for 6 days. My mom didn't hold me. And and the doctors kept telling her, Mrs. Woodward, your son is very sick. And but she wouldn't hear it because she knew I was the promise of God. And she kept saying, when can I hold him? When can I hold him? So the church, everyone in town was praying. This was in Atlanta, Georgia, Northside Hospital. Everyone was praying for me. I pulled through after 6 days, and the doctors came to my mom and they said, Mrs. Woodward, this is a miracle. And so that was it. I made it. So, and then I had 2 little sisters. And
We're glad you made it.
I made it. Yeah. So, but it was a really cool thing with my mom. She, like Matthew says, freely you receive, freely give, freely receive, freely give. There were a couple times I remember growing up where there would be someone that couldn't have children. And my mom would just quietly go and pray for that person, and then they'd get pregnant, and so it's just kind of a cool thing that I remember kind of happening, and there was not like a big fanfare, like hey, it would just happen. So fast forward, I went to a variety of schools growing up. My parents ended up homeschooling me for a while, and I got really into music. I wrote hundreds of songs, went to college, and I thought, yes, I'm going to be a songwriter.
Okay, I want to address something here. So you just said, oh yeah, I got into music. I wrote hundreds of songs. All right, so that's a big leap. And so I want you to take a second and go back and talk about, okay, how were you introduced to the music? And then what age did you start writing songs and all of that? Okay.
All right. So I remember being a young kid, and I remember my parents would have Friday night worship meetings at our house. And I had like this little bitty drum, and I would play the drums along with the music. And then the kids would go out and watch a movie while the parents did their God thing. And I wanted to be a drummer. And my mom said, okay, well, if you take a year of piano lessons, I will then I'll let you take drum lessons. And so I took a year of piano and didn't want to quit. And so I stuck with the piano, and my parents homeschooled me for 4 years, and my sisters. And during that time, my mom was I don't know if anybody is familiar with the term unschooling. My mom was an unschooler. And so we just had a lot of unstructured time. We didn't have like subject, structured school day. And that's helpful for a lot of people, but we didn't have that. So I would spend hours on the piano, and I liked my own playing. I didn't like my mom's playing. When I was younger, my mom would try to play the piano, and I would scream, "Stop playing!" And my dad made my mom stop. Which, looking back on it, he was attentive to my desires, and so I played for hours. I started making up songs, and really in the.
Okay, how old were you when you started making up songs?
I started writing songs when I was probably 13, and I had played the piano before then, but 13, I'd say 12, 13, that was really when I started to write songs. And in the beginning, they were all worship songs. And it wasn't until later that I kind of branched out and wrote about other topics. But I wrote a lot of worship songs. And then it was that time when Christian music had kind of a heyday in the 90s. And that was kind of when I was becoming aware of Christian music, and I had, I knew my own story. I knew that God was real, and so these having people making really cool music that's talking about God and it's singing to God, to me, that was like, this is amazing. I want to do this. I want to make this. I want to do this. And so that was my dream. I wanted to be like Christian rock star and, tour with a band and all that stuff. And I had the plan. I formed so many bands when I was growing up, and that's what I wanted to do. And so, and I ended up being accepted into Belmont, which was a huge blessing for me. So I went to Belmont. I had an experience with God by myself in my dorm room at Belmont, where I was baptized in the Holy Spirit by myself and started to speak in tongues. I started worshiping God in this other language I'd never spoken before. And it was wonderful. I felt like there was a river coming in my mouth and going out my chest and washing through me. And I had not been in a lot of hyper Pentecostal settings. And so I knew no one talked me into experiencing that. No one like got me into an emotional frenzy. Like I knew, and there's this verse that says, "We know, brothers, loved by God, that He's chosen you, because our message came to you not just with preaching, but with power of the Holy Spirit and deep conviction." And 1 Thessalonians something. And so I knew. And after that experience, it's like, I knew that was God. And for me, it was like this deep conviction that I never felt to that level, even though like I knew God was real because too many impossible things had happened. But for me right then, it was really a moment.
Okay. So you've been writing songs as a teenager. Now you're getting older and you're getting more involved in the things of the Spirit, right? So we live in Nashville. So there's a lot of people who have big music dreams. So I want you to address your music dreams concerning what you just said about writing worship songs, but at the same time, maybe touring and all of that. How has that played out for you?
Okay, that's a great question. So when I went to Belmont, there were a lot of challenges to me really doing what I thought I should be doing. And one of them was the people that are doing this, they're really selling themselves. They're really putting themselves out there. And I wasn't comfortable doing that. I wasn't comfortable, and I think I wasn't comfortable selling myself. But then on the other side of the coin, I also wasn't confident in stepping out and taking a risk. And so there was both sides of that coin. You can sell yourself in a bad way, but then also when you're supposed to do something, you can step out in confidence and faith and you can do it. Well, I didn't have either of those. And so I sort of played for other people. I was continuing to write songs, but I was not showing those songs to anyone. I was not trying to be a writer. And so then when I graduated, I ended up I had an audition. I toured with a worship band for a few years, and still I had no confidence to walk through this open door. I felt like I was then led to do a year of missions. So I quit the band and I did a year of mission work. And then after a year of that, I went back into music. I was producing, I was writing, but most of what I was doing was really in a supportive role of helping other artists do what they were stepping out to do.
Okay, so what you're saying is so vital, because here you are, you have this desire, this dream, you have a gift, music, you're writing songs, and then you started going into producing after you came up through it. You got to tour, you got to do the very thing that was in your heart with this other group, but you said that you were actually there to come alongside and serve those who had the bigger dream. And I think that's one of the things that people forget. I remember when I was in the circus, I wanted to be the guy flying, throwing the tricks to the catcher, but I was too big. Okay. I'm at 6'1", 185 pounds. I'm too big. Nobody's going to catch me. Right. Because most of those guys are, they're like 135 pounds max. So I thought, oh man, my dream, I can't do it. And then the coach said, why don't you be a catcher? Because you're so long, you'll be perfect. And I said, catcher? He goes, yeah. He said, don't you understand the catcher is involved in every trick, whereas the flyer is only like in every other one, or every third one. And you are the one who's in control of the team while you're up there. So I went, oh yeah, I'm doing that, right? Because all of a sudden now I get to be a part of the team I wanted to be a part of. I can't be, quote, the star, but they can't do anything without me. So now my motives were all wrong. Okay, it was all about me, totally wrong. But for those of you who are watching, I really want you to listen to what Mark is saying. He had this dream the whole time. He actually fulfilled it, and then he became a producer, and he's still helping other people. Now, so Mark, I want you to go from there and then talk about, what is it that you're doing? Where did that take you as you were, helping other people?
You bring up a really excellent side of this is the aspect of what are you contributing? What are you giving to the world? Because your purpose, if it's just about you, that's not complete. It can't end there. And so for a lot of this time that I'm producing for other people, I'm trying to help other people, but then also I'm just trying to work in the area that I want to work in. And I'm really thinking I'm missing it. I'm missing what I'm supposed to be doing. And but I don't have, and I didn't really think about it clearly, but I've always felt like I'm not stepping out doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I'm just doing this instead. And so really I felt like I wasn't really doing it. But I did want to help other people. And really, I was getting better through supporting these other artists and producing for these other artists. So anyway, time passes and I got an opportunity to teach music. And I had not found success as a producer. I had not found success as a touring musician. And I had done it, but it hadn't led to a next step in that arena. And so I thought, okay, you know what? It'll be an adventure. I'll try it. And so it was a little private school, and I had a connection to the headmaster of the school. And they had just had to fire their music teacher, so they were in need. Now, I had a music degree, no teaching certificate, but that's not required for a private school in Tennessee. And so I was given an interview, and I got the job. And so I worked like a dog, trying to figure out how to write lesson plans and teach kids, and it was very hard for the first few years. I was just trying to survive in the classroom, figure out how to do this thing called classroom management. And but through the process of this, I started teaching songwriting in a school setting, and it's like it brought me back to supporting others to do what I wanted to be doing. And during that time, I'd say one of the deepest desires I'd had was to be a husband and a father. And so it was during that time of teaching that I was blessed with my beautiful wife. Now we've been married 14 years, and we have 6 children. Mm-hmm. And so that's just been an incredible blessing in my life that kind of happened at that same time. So anyway, during that time, I had an experience in 2008. At the beginning of the school year, and I've been teaching in a Montessori school for a few years. I've been teaching there for a while, since 2011. No, sorry, 2018. Or was it 2017? Anyway, regardless, I got the idea I'm supposed to write the school musical. And the number 8, it was my 8th year teaching. And the number 8 just sort of stuck in my head. And I looked it up. What does the number 8 mean? It means new beginnings. And I felt at that moment, like this is a new beginning for me to write and record and publish, to write and publish. And I'd always had this fear of stepping out, putting myself out there. It was always just this anxiety. And for 2 weeks, that anxiety was gone. After I had this realization of the number 8, it's my 8th year teaching. 8 is new beginning. 7 notes in the scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. The 8th note is do. It's a new beginning. 7 days in a week. The 8th day is the new beginning. And so this 8th year teaching, this is a new beginning for me. I'm supposed to write and publish. I'm going to write and publish the school musical. And so for 2 weeks, I had the fear was absolutely gone. And I told everyone, this is what I'm doing. We're going to write the school musical this year. And I'm going to write it it was actually about the founder of the Montessori method, Maria Montessori, the first female doctor in Italy who had developed the Montessori approach. And so for 2 weeks, I make all these commitments. We're going to write it this year. And after those 2 weeks had passed, all those old fears and inhibitions came back. And I was like, what am I doing? But I had already committed. And I had like a series of writing deadlines now, research deadlines, writing deadlines. I had to research. I had to, and it was funny, like God brought a sort of a coach into my life at that time. And he said, you don't know what these schools want. If you want to write something for Montessori schools to put on, you don't know what they want. You need to go visit Montessori schools and see what are their needs, what are those schools like?
Okay, so you've said so much there, but I didn't want to interrupt because it was so good. Again, you kind of came full circle, right? Back to serving, back to doing what you love, being able to write. You're talking about, okay, I'm going to publish this. You're teaching, and it was hard for a couple of years, but you're still teaching inside the area of your purpose, which for you is music, right? And then you get this idea. You have 2 weeks with absolutely no fear that was always there. Make all these commitments to do it, and then they all return. So what I'm saying here, guys, is sometimes you're going to serve. Sometimes you're going to be able to do exactly what you want to do. And sometimes you're going to make commitments that are going to scare you, but God gives you those windows of courage to make those commitments so then you can walk them out. So I want to talk to us about walking it out, Mark.
So I was stuck. And as a teacher, we're busy. We don't have a lot of extra time. And I'm not a classic procrastinator, but I'm a good procrastinator. And what's great for procrastinators is deadlines. And so I have to have this song ready by this day to teach this class. And so I would come in with a half-written song and show it to the students. And some parts they would love and they would catch on. Some parts they would say words wrong. And I would realize that the way the students said it was better than the way I had written it. And what I found in writing it was that this is just a niche music thing, is that kids like complex stuff. They don't like dumbed down. People that write for kids, they dumb everything down. Kids like complex, difficult, lyrical things. And it's good if there's a few lyrics they don't understand. Just to kind of stretch them a little bit, like they gravitate toward those areas of complexity. And I would see the kids in the classroom just zoned in, using all their powers of comprehension to read these lyrics and get the melodies. And I think something that is unique to me that has been kind of as a blessing and a curse, but I get excited really easily, and I'm totally sincere. I get sincerely excited about something, and it's not hard to get me excited about something. And I overcommit myself as a result. But that it's like a superpower when you're dealing with kids, because I can be in a classroom with kids and be genuinely, sincerely excited about something, and then that energy just permeates the classroom. And I used to get this way before a baseball game. I would literally shake in bed when I was growing up the night before a baseball game. I'd be so excited and just like vibrating with, I can't wait to get up to bat, or I cannot wait for this game. And I'd just be so excited. And you know, the other side of that is I'm not funny. I'm not witty. You know, my wife is so funny and so witty. I'm not. I'm cheerful. But anyway, I'm writing these songs. I'm like honing them in the classroom. I'm getting all this amazing feedback from the kids. We're kind of writing the musical together with me as kind of the directing brain, doing the research and making sure that everything's actually historically accurate, and then finding the core of the story, and then the kids helping to be the sounding board for fleshing out, you know, specific lyrical things, melodic things. Oh, that's too low for you to sing. That note is too low. Oh, this note is too high. And so it ended up being a perfect, like a lab for what I was writing. And it's so funny because when I started teaching, for me, it was giving up. I was giving up on my dream of being an artist and a writer, because really an artist and a writer, that was what I wanted to be. And so when I started teaching, I was giving up on that. You know, the saying, those who do, those who can't do, teach. And that really, I mean, I didn't allow myself to dwell on that, but that haunted me in the back of my head, you know, because I thought, I'm giving up. I'm giving up, and I'm just filling this need, and I'm giving up my dreams. And so, but really, God brought it back to me and had me be situated in a way that it was just really connected. And part of that process is that when we got done, when we're getting to the final stages of the musical, I started calling. I've never been someone to just push myself and make phone calls and put myself out there, but I called the American Montessori Society in New York City. I called them repeatedly, over and over. I got this musical. It's about Maria Montessori. I got this musical. Hey, listen, we're putting it on. I got this musical. It's great. And they finally called me back. They thought I was asking them for money. They thought I wanted some kind of, you know, support or something. And I was like, no, I just want to tell you guys about it. And so anyway, we put on the musical. We sent them photos and just shared it. We sent the photos. We sent them other things. And they said, this is amazing. We want to put you on the cover of next year's fall edition of Montessori Life magazine. And so that began us getting featured on websites. There was like an international Maria Montessori's like 150th birthday. They played the video of our performance streaming worldwide on the day of Maria Montessori's birthday. We made the cover of the magazine, and then we started having requests from schools come into us. We want to license this musical. And then we ended up taking some students up to a Montessori convention in Washington, D.C., and performing some songs from the musical. And we had Montessori teachers with just tears in their eyes and coming, how can we get this script? And so my wife and I, one thing led to another. The musical has been put on 4 continents, in 9 different countries. We've even had people offer to translate it into German, into Spanish. And so it was really a God thing. And over the course of that year, it really what it felt like was that I had been commissioned to write this. It felt like God gave me a commission to write this musical, and that he had lined everything up for it. And I mean, and the number 8 kept showing up again. And like, my son was born in January that year. He was born on 1/11/2018, and he was 8 pounds 8 ounces. And at the beginning of that school year, there was an eclipse. It was 2017 or 2018. There was a big eclipse that happened, and it happened. They canceled school the day it happened, and it happened on the 21st of that month. And so, which the 21st, this is weird. The 21st is the end of the third 7. And they canceled school that day. And so school started on the 8th day of the third 7 after the eclipse. It's just all these things. To me, it was like zing, zing, zing. This is it. And so,
okay, this is just so awesome. I just love every part of this. So you have said so many things. And like I said, I don't want to interrupt you because it's so good. But think about this. You said yes to something that came to you that said, I should do a musical. You had this 2-week window of absolutely no fear where you committed to it. Then all the fear comes back, but you still did it. And then you got over another thing that says, I don't push myself, but you weren't pushing Mark. You were pushing this creation, right? So you did that and it went all over the world. That was never a thought in your mind, right? It wasn't like, oh, this is going to maybe be translated. That wasn't the idea. The idea was, I have to do this. So I'm going to overcome procrastination. I'm going to meet my deadlines. I'm going to write these songs. And it has changed the lives. I love when you said the teachers were crying when you were in Washington. They were crying because you're telling a story, right? You're telling the story of a great human being who has affected millions and millions and millions of children around the world. So I just want those of you who are watching, listening to this, you never know when you say yes, what's going to happen. You never know how powerful that yes can be, where you may touch. My example, back in the 80s, when the Lord said, hey, I want you to write your first book. He didn't say first book. He said, I want you to write a book on purpose and destiny, because I couldn't find one. It never was a thought in my mind. It would go all over the world, be translated, would create a ministry that has touched millions of people, literally millions. Never a thought. I was just saying yes. So I want you to hear that. Mark kept saying yes to what came to him. And he's fulfilled dreams of his own. He's fulfilled the dreams of other people. I love what you said about the kids. They're not afraid of complex things. I get so tired of people dumbing things down for people. We can handle it. Kids can handle it. We can handle it. So we're almost done here. So I want you to, let's just pivot it for a second here. If there was one thing that you could say to those who are listening, Mark, and those who are watching, that would be a key to unlock who they are, what they're supposed to be doing. If there's one thing, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, if there's one thing, what would you say that is?
I mean, ask me that question on a different day, you're going to get a different answer every day. In this one moment, just reflecting on this journey, I think, I could be wrong. I think Habakkuk, it says somewhere, don't despise the day of small beginnings. For me, it is, don't think that the little insignificant thing you're doing right now, don't think that it's not important. Like the little things and the things that things that don't fit into your plan or what you think you're supposed to be doing or what you think you want to be doing. Don't think that that little things, little responsibilities, little places where you feel like you're stuck. I'm stuck doing this. Don't think that those are holding you back. Because we can't, like, a man makes his plans, but the Lord directs his steps. One of my favorite, I'll finish with a story. My father-in-law had a job cleaning the toilets at our church years and years ago. And one day he was cleaning the toilets and he was just fed up. What am I doing cleaning these toilets? Like God, why am I stuck here cleaning these toilets? And what he heard was, these toilets are cleaning you. Ooh. And so, like everything that God puts in our life, everything has to be tested. I mean, we're rough material. And it's so, in order for God to get us to the place where we're really doing what we know we were made to do, there's a lot that we have to go through to get us where we're ready for that place. Like Saul got elevated to king and he was not ready for it. He got the position. You're king. He's the perfect guy. He's a head taller than everybody else. He's king and he can't handle it. The pressure, he can't handle the pressure. It destroys him. And so if we get into the place where we're trying to go, but we're not ready for it, man, it's the grace of God to hold us back a little bit and put us through the testing that we got to go through in order to be in that place. So just don't think that the little things, the situation you can't seem to get out of, the responsibility you can't seem to shake, whatever it is, don't think that that's holding you back, because that's actually the testing ground where God is making you into what you need to be to do that thing that, what you're supposed to be doing.
That is so awesome. It's great, Mark. So good. So guys, I hope that you have enjoyed this with Mark. I mean, I knew it was going to be good. I know his story, though I did hear some things I hadn't heard before. And so, guys, this is what we want to do on these podcasts. We want people to tell their story, because we all have a story. And a lot of times, and I say this almost every time we do a podcast, you see the after. People would look at Mark and say, well, he wrote this musical that went all over the world. It got all these accolades. They didn't see the before. They only saw the after, right? They didn't see the journey. They saw a part of the destination. And that's what I want you guys to think about when you're listening to these stories on these podcasts. Hear everything. Get an understanding. What Mark said there at the very end is probably one of the best keys I've ever heard. Don't look at the small things. They're not small. They are huge mile markers in your life. Mark, thank you so much for being a part of this today. So guys, remember, hit the bell, subscribe and the likes and all that stuff for these videos. We want to continue to bring them to people. So guys, we'll see you on the next Master Keys of Life. God bless you.